Dark truth about living abroad, what nobody talks about. Not even the digital nomads, not the YouTubers, not even your friends. But when you leave your home country, something inside of you kind of breaks. You stop feeling like you fully belong anywhere. You think the hard part's going to be learning the language or even figuring out visas or making new friends, but it's actually not the case. That stuff is just really surface level. The real shit, it's, waking up one day and realizing you don't have really a home to go back to anymore. Not back to where you came from, and it's not really here either. So you're kind of stuck in between, feeling like a little bit of a ghost, floating through like all these different cultures. And I've been caught through it as well when I left Canada, to chase a little bit more freedom and adventure in my life, have better quality women, better quality life, just more opportunity. I lived in Poland, lived in Colombia, lived in Ukraine a little bit during the war, and I've had some moments, where I felt really on top of the world, and I had some moments when I thought like, who the fuck am I even anymore? And there's really 5 stages that I feel like everybody goes through, and I didn't realize this until when I just came back to visit Canada. So if you live abroad, you've probably felt these stages as well. So I like to say the first stage is the disconnection. At first, you're just a little bit out of the loop. People back home, they're talking about stuff, you don't really get. There's new shows, there's new slang, there's new restaurants, and, you're not really a part of it. And you see all of this on social media. Then it gets deeper and you watch your old life continue without you. Like your old friends are kind of hanging out, your family's aging, and unfortunately you're not there for that. You start to feel almost like a tourist in your own country, especially in Canada or in the West. If you guys are from the West and you go back, you see what's happening to, these countries, and it's unfortunate. But number two is you lose your rhythm. You kind of forget how to be you. Your humor doesn't quite land with, the locals in your area. Your energy feels, just a tad bit off. You kind of filter everything you say. In Colombia, I definitely felt like myself. In Ukraine, in Poland, it was very cold, felt very, very off there. People were a little bit more reserved. And I was kind of questioning, like, am I a little bit too much for these cultures? Am I a little bit weird? And then you start shaping yourself to kind of fit in. And over time, you forget who the original version of you was. Stage number three is the cravings that you get. And I'm not talking about the food. I definitely miss the food at home, kind of like what my mom used to make, all the pierogies and the soups, but the kind that aren't, you can't really Postmate, right? I also missed kind of feeling known back at home. I missed walking into the coffee shop where, they kind of knew your order already. I missed hearing the language spoken, that I grew up with. I missed kind of the vibe at home, not just the place, but you realize home isn't just one spot on the map, right? It's a smell, it's kind of like a rhythm. And when you're abroad, you're kind of starved for that. You're starved for that same feeling. Stage four is I like to call it the mind fuck. All right, this is where it really messes, with your head. You start adapting, you stop checking, the news, and you start saying we when you talk about the new country, which is the strangest thing ever. And you're not faking it anymore. You're actually blending in, but it doesn't feel like progress. It kind of feels like a little bit like betrayal. So you wonder if you're abandoning, who you are and who you used to be. And you wonder if your friends really recognize you, the person you're becoming. And when somebody asks you where you're from, you kind of pause, and both answers, they feel kind of wrong because you don't know if you're from Canada or you're from this new place or wherever you're from. I remember walking alone in Lviv you know, kind of in the middle of spring. Everything was super quiet and cold still, and I just felt a little bit hollow, a little bit off there. But I Googled flights home that night. I wondered if I kind of made a huge mistake. You know, deep down, I knew I couldn't go back because the version of me, the one who left, doesn't exist anymore, right? So something shifts. You're in a random, you know, conversation with somebody. You help somebody new navigate, you know, a place, a local, and you explain your old culture kind of in a way that, you know, it actually makes people understand. And you joke sometimes in a second language without thinking about it. Like when you learn Spanish or you learn a little bit of Ukrainian and Russian. So for the first time, you feel solid again. And this isn't an identity crisis anymore. It is a full, complete transformation. So it gets better. The fifth stage of this video is the rebirth. And this is what takes some time, but you didn't lose yourself during this phase. You leveled up. You're not actually disconnected from your roots. You kind of carry them on, you know, with you. You're not rootless. You're growing new ones, and you're not awkwardly switching cultures. You're kind of the fucking bridge, to be honest. And you don't just speak different languages now. You think a lot differently about the world. You see the world differently, and that's your power. You are strong when you start to be multicultural, and people back home, they don't quite get it. Like they never had to adapt. They never had to rebuild. But if you're watching this video and you were traveling, you had to, you know how to handle change, and you know how to be alone as well. So you know how to walk into a room where nobody really speaks your own language and still own it. That is extremely rare these days, and that's very powerful. If you're in the middle of this, if you're, you know, kind of in the messy part, I get it. There were days for me personally, I felt I really didn't belong anywhere. And I felt like I was floating in different worlds. So you're really not broken. You are evolving massively. So drop a comment below and just let me know, where are you at in this journey? If you are traveling, if you're outside of your home country, which stage hits you the hardest? So let's stop pretending this life is just beaches and laptops. Let's talk about the real stuff, the loneliness, you know, the true transformation that you need to make. When you build a life abroad and you really go through it, you don't come out weaker. You come out reborn and a brand new person. So hit subscribe if you felt like this resonated with you. I've got a lot more coming, a lot more raw truths, you know, personal growth, and what it actually takes to build a life on your terms. So living between worlds doesn't mean you're lost. It means that, you know, you are growing and you're changing, and the world that most people don't understand, you understand. So that's something to be proud of. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you guys on the next one.